KSJE and Theater Ensemble Arts present Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, an original adaptation by Britt C. Ward. Theater Ensemble Arts is an all-volunteer, non-profit community theater entertaining the Four Corners since 1997. To find out more about how you can volunteer or support your community theater, call 505-326-2839 or like us on Facebook at TEA Community Theater. KSJE has been promoting, sharing, and supporting the art and artists of the Four Corners for more than 30 years. See how you can support KSJE at ksje.com/support. This project is supported in part by New Mexico Arts, a division of the Department of Cultural Affairs, and by the National Endowment for the Arts. This performance is also made possible by Chuck Holmes at San Juan Realty, assisting buyers, sellers, and renters. Find out more at 505-327-4837. And by Erica Herring, an advocate for community theater and local arts organizations. And also by the Hess Corporation, a leading independent energy company delivering the energy the world needs. The performance of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, adapted by Britt C. Ward, features Tim Bagley as Jacob Marley, Dan Ware as Ebeneezer Scrooge, Christopher Spinner as Fred Holywell, Shera Piper as Mary Holywell, Ben Burns as Bob Cratchit, Joey Herring as Mrs. Cratchit and Belle, Tate Macsalka as Tiny Tim, Daniel Cabrera as Fezziwig and Old Joe, Rhonda Ware as the Ghost of Christmas Past and Martha Cratchit, R.J. Macsalka as the Ghost of Christmas Present, Chuck Holmes and Ethan Franklin as the Portly Gentlemen. Sound design and editing created by Stephen Clark and Rhonda Ware. And now, please join us for A Christmas Carol.
The chains of my torment. Oh, these chains that bind, these chains which constrict, they weigh me down, hold me to my lot, to my fate. These chains, they are mine, and I do not welcome them. My name is Marley, Jacob Marley. I am the humble teller of tonight's story, just as I am now a humble servant to eternity herself. Mine is a lost cause now, but I am not the subject of the tale. No, that would be my friend in life, Ebeneezer Scrooge. He was my sole executor, my sole administrator, my sole assign, my sole residuary legatee, my sole friend, and my sole mourner. We start the story on Christmas Eve, but allow me to give you a warning about my dear friend. He's not much for first impressions, or second, or third. 7 years after my funeral, little had changed for our own Ebeneezer Scrooge. He was an excellent man of business. But what else was he? He was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, a squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner, hard and sharp as flint, from which no steel had ever struck out generous fire. Secret and self-contained was old Scrooge. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, shriveled his cheek, stiffened his gait. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He approached no one, and no one enjoyed approaching him. Unfortunately, as he was a moneylender and was thus in possession of many titles, deeds, mortgages, and the like, it was well known that many had to approach Mr. Scrooge. Even what remained of his family didn't enjoy meeting with him. And it's on this note we joined my old associate's nephew and his wife as they approached the building that Scrooge and I used to share, one he now works in alone, aside from his assistant, the humble Bob Cratchit.
Here we are, Marley and Scrooge. You know, he really needs to update that sign.
He refuses. He tells me it is too expensive.
Is that not confusing for new customers?
Matters not. Scrooge will answer to Scrooge, or to Marley, or to anything as long as he knows you're good for the money he lends.
And if you're not?
Back out onto the street with you.
How can you smile when you say that?
I smile when I say everything.
Yes, but even you, dear husband, must have your limits. Fred, are we really going to ask your uncle again?
Yes, we are.
And are you expecting a different result?
I have no expectations. I only hope for the best.
Hope has its limits as well.
If I do not make the effort to invite my uncle to our Christmas party, then who will?
Honestly?
Yes.
No one.
Then all the more reason it should be me who speaks up for him.
You are stubborn.
I can be.
Yes. Every year you invite him to our Christmas party.
And he declines.
Precisely. His stubbornness against yours.
Is it stubbornness if it comes from a place of love?
How you could profess to love that man.
He is my uncle.
That such a thing could have a mother. He's rude, without compassion. And the way he clutches that handkerchief, but never uses it. What is that about?
I don't know. I only asked him about it once, and the look he gave me was the most frightening thing I'd ever seen.
You mean more than his usual curmudgeon's complexion?
If you can believe it.
I implore you one last time that we turn around and walk away. From this business and from this man. He has done no good for the people around him, and that's when he's at his best.
I cannot do it. Maybe cruelty is his nature, but...
Unfailing kindness is yours, and for that I do very much love you. If you insist upon this fool's errand as an act of placating that impulse you call your nature, then I shall ever follow you.
And that is why ours is an unbreakable union. Shall we?
Lead on.
They entered the old establishment. There, in one corner, was kind Bob Cratchit, who heard the door but did not dare look up from his work. And from the foyer they could clearly see the unmistakable image of one Ebeneezer Scrooge, currently silhouetted by the harsh light from his office window.
Merry Christmas, Uncle. God save you.
Ah, humbug.
Christmas a humbug, Uncle. You still stand by that?
Hand that ridiculous word.
I do. Merry Christmas? What right do you have to be merry? You're poor enough.
What reason have you to be morose? You're rich enough.
Again I say humbug.
Don't be cross, Uncle.
What else can I be? Look at this world of fools. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time for finding yourself a year older but not an hour richer? A time for collecting and giving trinkets of affection that sit dusty on shelves for years to come? If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart.
A charming image.
Who is this?
This is Mary. You know Mary.
We've met a few times, Mr. Scrooge.
Why did you get married?
Hey.
Because I fell in love.
Because you fell in love. Almost as ridiculous as Christmas.
You need a night off, Uncle. Perhaps...
Aha! We come to it. The purpose of this visit. I should have acknowledged the calendar with greater detail. You're here to invite me to your party.
As a matter of fact, yes.
You're proud of this?
I think you'd enjoy yourself.
If I call you a fool again, will you suddenly find wisdom?
Would you like to come to our party, Uncle?
No, nephew, I would not enjoy that at all. Every year I say the same thing. Every year you insist. Let me state this in a way that one such as you may understand. I will not go to your party. Would you really like to test my will on this? Come back tomorrow morning. See if I'm willing to pry myself away from my work and make a merry day of it. I predict that I will say the same thing as I am right now.
You'll probably say humbug, too.
What?
Nothing, Mr. Scrooge.
I am sorry, with all my heart, to find you so resolute.
I take comfort from it.
We have never had a quarrel to which I have been a party. But I have made the trial an homage to Christ, and I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last.
Keep Christmas in your own way and let me keep it in mine.
Keep it? But you don't keep it.
Let me leave it alone then. What good has Christmas done for you?
Christmas time is the only time I know of on this long calendar when men and women seem by one consent to open their shut-up hearts freely, where charity and good cheer are more important than their usual strifes. Yes, Christmas has never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, but I believe that it has done me good and will do me good, and I say, God bless it.
Good afternoon.
Merry Christmas to you, Uncle. Let's get going, Mary.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year! I suppose you did tell me this would happen.
Oh, Fred, I would take some delight in your humiliation if it weren't such a sad sight. You are the only person in this world, and likely any other, who loves that man.
My mother loved him.
Your mother was a saint. A shame I never got to meet her. Then I would have known the better parts of your family. Let's go home.
While the confrontation with his uncle would weigh heavily on Fred's mind, Scrooge would barely remember it. Such was his constant state of nastiness that this was little more than the status quo for him. Unfortunately for Scrooge, it would not be long since Fred and Mary's visit that two other individuals would make their way into his business. More unfortunate for them, really.
Merry Christmas, dear sir. Do I have the pleasure of speaking to Mr. Marley or Mr. Scrooge?
Mr. Marley's been dead for 7 years, this very night.
I see. Your sign is out of date then. Well, we'll have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner.
What's that? Liberality?
At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provisions for the poor and destitute who suffer greatly at the present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessities. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comfort, sir.
The poor, you say? The destitute?
Yes, sir, the impecunious.
The indigent.
Ah, I see. Are there no prisons?
Sir?
I asked, are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
Are the union workhouses not still in operation?
They are, still. I wish I could say they were not.
The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor then?
Both very busy, sir.
I was afraid from what you said at first that something had stopped them in their useful course. I'm glad to hear that's not the case.
Well, see, sir, a few of us are endeavoring to raise funds to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We've chose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices.
As well, the cult has an exceptional impact on those who are without. This time of year is more difficult for them than it is most others.
With that in mind, kind sir, what can we put you down for?
Nothing.
Oh, you wish to remain anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I don't make merry myself at Christmas, and I can't afford to make idle people merry either. I help to support establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough. And those who are badly off must go there.
But, sir, many can't go there, and many would rather die.
Well, if they would rather die, they'd better get on with it, and decrease the surplus population.
Sir!
Now I say to you, good afternoon, gentlemen.
And with that, Scrooge ushered the two men out of this business and into the snow. This confrontation stuck out more in his mind than the one with his nephew. The nerve of those men, asking him for charity. But such was Scrooge's way. As the long hours passed, his assistant, Bob Cratchit, thought only of his family and the wonderful day that was Christmas. Scrooge thought only of evictions, of repossession and foreclosure, and most of all, he imagined his bottom line. He did not smile at the thought, however. It was as close to a smile as Scrooge usually came. Finally, it was time to close up for the day.
You'll see to closing up the shop, Cratchit?
Yes, sir.
Good. I'll see you tomorrow morning, then.
But, sir...
What pitiful excuse might you offer me for not coming in tomorrow?
Well, it's Christmas.
Bah! December 25th. A poor excuse for picking a man's pocket.
It's only once a year.
And the one time a year I look forward to no money earned. What good does it do me?
If it helps, there won't be any other shops open. Everyone closes on Christmas as well. There won't be any clients to be had.
I see no reason for this frivolity. All the same, I suppose I'm alone in this. Fine, take the day. But come in an hour earlier the next. You'll have much work to make up.
Yes, sir.
Scrooge set off for his home. He walked alone in the streets, as all the shops around were already closed. Scrooge liked to walk alone, but this night, when he arrived at his door, a shock awaited him. On Scrooge's front door, there was a large brass door knocker, larger than most, but all the same very plain. Except this night, when Scrooge looked up from his walk, he saw that the door knocker had changed, and now a pale, haunting face was staring back at him. He stepped back, shocked. He knew the face. Its expression held neither anger nor ferocity, and its eyes were impulsively wide. Scrooge's mouth fell open, for of course he knew the face. It was mine. But as he tried to put together the thoughts racing in his mind, the door knocker returned to its normal appearance. Scrooge shook his head and tried to put the image of what he just saw out of his mind.
Humbug.
To say that he was not startled would be untrue. He turned the key and walked in, and then lit his candle. After a quick scan of the outside, up the stairs Scrooge went. His house was dark, but this did not bother him. He liked the darkness. It was cheap. However, after the door knocker, he thought to check every room. But after he had seen that all was the same as it was supposed to be, he dressed in his nightgown. He set himself before a small fire to take his gruel. It is in our quiet moments when our thoughts get the better of us. You may think you're lost in one idea when memories, good, nasty, and all in between, find their way into your mind, even if you don't want them to.
Another idol. Another idol has replaced me.
Sometimes you can keep those thoughts hidden, shielded, but no matter how much they seem put away, they'll find means through. And you might find yourself an old man muttering to himself absent-mindedly.
Another idol. Another idol.
Now, it's time for my part in the story.
Humbug. Humbug still. How now? What do you want with me? Who are you?
Ask me who I was.
Who were you then?
In life, I was your partner, Jacob Marley.
Jacob Marley?
You don't believe in me?
I don't.
What evidence would you have beyond that of your senses?
I don't know.
Why do you doubt your senses?
Because little things affect them. A slight disorder of the stomach makes them cheat. You may be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an undercooked potato. There's more of gravy than of grave about you.
Your humor isn't much improved, dear Ebeneezer.
Bah!
But you've come close to admitting what it is I am. No. Say it. Tell me what I am. At least what I appear to be.
A spirit. But you are fettered.
Ah, yes. You've seen my chains.
Why?
These are the chains I forged in life. Link by link. Yard by yard. I girded it on of my own free will. And of my own free will, I wore it. Is its pattern strange to you?
I don't understand.
You don't know it now, but as I did, you would know the weight and length of the strong bonds you now bear yourself. Yours is as full as mine now, even 7 years ago. You have labored on it since. Such a ponderous chain.
That's enough. Please, dear Jacob, speak comfort to me.
I have none to give. It comes from Mother Regent, Ebeneezer Scrooge. It is conveyed by other ministers to other kinds of need. Nor can I tell you what I would. A very little more is all permitted to me. I cannot rest. I cannot stay. I cannot linger anywhere. My spirit never walked beyond our counting house in life. Never beyond the narrow limits of our money-changing hole. And weary journeys lie before me. I dictate to no one where I shall travel. Those above tell me where my path lies.
You have no say?
None that would matter. There isn't much use for negotiation.
You were a good businessman.
Business! Mankind was my business. The common welfare was my business. Charity, mercy, forbearance, and benevolence were all my business. The dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business. Now hear me, Scrooge, for my time is short.
I will. But don't be hard on me, Jacob, and speak plainly.
Even though I stand before you in shape today, I've spent much time invisible to you, beside you. No light part of my penance, I can assure you. I am here tonight to warn you that you have yet a chance and hope of escaping my fate. A chance and hope of my procuring Ebeneezer.
A chance to avoid the chains? You were always a good friend to me, Jacob. Thank you.
You shall be haunted by 3 spirits.
That's the chance, the hope?
It is.
Well, then I'd rather not.
If you refuse, your fate is as mine.
What kind of spirits are these?
Expect the first soon, at the stroke of 10.
Couldn't I just take them all at once, have it over quick?
Be ready. They are coming.
Jacob, where are you? You vanished. That must have been the gruel. Yes, I thought it tasted off. I've worked a long day, and I shall to bed immediately. Sleep off this bit of illness.
Scrooge made his way to bed, content that he'd imagined everything, or perhaps had a touch of madness brought on, as he might suggest, by some misprepared bit of food. In spite of the fear he felt, fatigue proved the stronger of impulses, and his eyes slowly closed, heavy. But it wasn't long before 10 o'clock came.
What is that? Oh, just the chimes of the clock. What was that, 10? And no spectre to be seen? As I suspected. Nonsense.
And that was when his room filled with light, so powerful that it shone through the bed curtains as though the sun itself were next to his bed.
What is this? What is happening?
And then it died down, leaving Scrooge in the dark, his eyes blinking out the lingering effect of the intense light. Scrooge grabbed his old handkerchief and then pulled his bed curtains aside as his eyes found their vision. And he saw what looked like a child, yet somehow not like a child at all. She stared back at him, a smile on her face.
Who and what are you?
You were told I would be here, silly old man.
You are the spirit, then, whose coming was foretold to me.
I am.
Are you like Jacob? I see no chains.
Oh, silly old man. I am nothing like your friend. I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past.
Why are you here?
Your welfare.
My welfare?
Your reclamation, then. Anyway, best get to it. Come along.
The ghost of Christmas past then opened Scrooge's bedroom window, and with her small stature, she easily fit into the open space. She turned to look at Scrooge and grinned yet again.
If it would please you, come with me.
Am I to crouch in my open window after you?
Don't be absurd. We will fly, silly old man.
I'm mortal and liable to fall. Further, I'm not the sort of mortal who has known flight.
I can see that. You are very slow-witted. Come, take my hand.
This seems a most terrible idea.
Oh, yes. All the most fun ideas are.
With great reluctance, Scrooge reached his hand out and took hers. And without warning, Scrooge was pulled through his window and into the night sky. Yet, there was no weight to it, no pain. He was soaring freely through the air.
I would much prefer we land now.
We aren't there yet.
My stomach will soon protest more than my words.
We should go faster then.
No, this will be my end. My death is imminent.
Keep yourself together. We're not far from our destination. See that light ahead? That's where we are going.
No, I am corrected. I shall be sick, and then I shall die.
There it is.
Please put me down.
Everything stopped. Scrooge had his eyes closed tightly, yet he felt firm ground beneath his feet. Still, he remained motionless, worried that even the slightest action might send him to his doom.
Open your eyes, silly old man. We are no longer flying. Look there.
Scrooge opened his eyes. He saw the grounds to his old school.
Good heavens, I was a boy here. It hasn't changed at all.
But it has changed. In the world you now know, this place is completely different. We are here when you were a boy. Do you remember where to go?
Remember? I could walk it blindfolded.
Strange to have forgotten it so many years.
Look, over there. Do you see that tree? I used to spend my free time over by that tree. At that table, yes. I used to read there, but the school is deserted.
Not quite. A solitary child, neglected by his friends, is left there still.
Scrooge saw a young boy, indeed solitary. Scrooge's breath left his lungs as he realized that boy was himself.
Silly old man, meet silly young man.
Good heavens, was I ever so small?
Most everyone is for a bit of their life.
Could I speak with him, or should I say myself?
No, these are but shades of your past, shadows long vanished. They cannot speak to you, or hear, or smell, or touch you.
I look sad. I've no memory of this.
Look there.
Scrooge did look. If he'd been surprised to see himself, there was nothing to seeing the young lady.
My sister?
Yes.
She is here to walk me home.
She walked you home every day?
Yes. But this day she was late, because she'd been cross with me that very morning.
Why was she cross?
I haven't the faintest memory, but I think she was teaching me a lesson by being late. I knew she would never leave me for too long.
She could never leave you to your own devices. She had to protect you.
Yes. She always looked out for me. Always.
Delicate was her health, yes?
She was always plagued with weak lungs. Still, she stood up for me when others would not.
She had a large heart.
So she had.
She died a woman. She had children?
One child.
Yes, your nephew.
Both Scrooge and the spirit watched in silence as Scrooge's sister took her younger brother's hand, and with both now smiling, they set off. Scrooge watched the pair as they walked down the path and out of sight.
I do not want to speak of my sister. I'm not...
Yes, let's move on.
Snow picked up, swirled around, formed a massive orb, and moved for both Scrooge and the ghost of Christmas past.
A storm! Coming right for us! We must find shelter!
No, it's meant for us and only us. Remain where you are.
Where are we? A park. I know this park.
You'll find you know all the places we will visit.
What is it we're looking for? Oh, dear me. Belle.
In spite of himself, Scrooge felt his heart skip a beat, and a warm familiarity spread throughout him, starting in his gut. There she was, sitting near a tree, reading a book that Scrooge couldn't see the title of. A giddy nervousness spread, and his face broke into a wide smile. He felt his stomach drop when he thought she looked directly at him.
Ebeneezer Scrooge.
You said they couldn't see us.
She isn't talking to you. Look.
Are you listening to me?
Looking satisfied with himself, A younger Scrooge, barely approaching 17, strolled along the park, his confident grin making Belle even angrier.
I say, are you listening to me?
No, I am not.
You had better start,
And why is that?
so you can explain to me why you keep stealing my handkerchief.
That is a very serious accusation, Belle.
I'm not playing your games, Ebeneezer.
I tell you, I'm not playing any games. I'm taking your accusations very seriously.
Yes, I can see that. Wipe that ridiculous grin off your face. No one should look as happy as you do.
What's wrong with happiness?
It is not the happiness that concerns me. It is the self-satisfaction that gives me alarm.
You call it self-satisfaction. I call it a healthy confidence.
Your arrogance should not be mistaken for charm.
I rather think my charm should not be mistaken for arrogance. You've a touch of a grin in the corners of your lips. I believe that I am charming my way into your heart as we speak.
You'll charm your face into my fist if you do not return my handkerchief.
You're certain it belongs to you?
I see it sticking out of your pocket. There. Give it over.
If it is yours, then why don't you come and claim it now?
What kind of a simpleton do you take me for?
Not a simpleton. I'm just suggesting that if this is yours, it would be criminal for me to keep it from you.
Remember what I said about my fist and your face?
Again you resort to physical threat.
No, dear Ebeneezer. A threat comes from a simpleton. Mine is a promise.
And that should frighten me?
Yes.
You're not getting this back.
Ebeneezer!
No! Bring it back, Spirit! Bring back that happy vision!
We must continue on, but you should like this place also.
This is Mr. Fezziwig's business.
And remember, Ebeneezer, speak kindly to your employees. Only raise your voice should their actions be truly egregious.
Yes, Mr. Fezziwig?
And remember, young man, trust is not something you can measure. It doesn't have a proper value. Yet, it holds all the value you will ever need.
Mr. Fezziwig taught me everything. I was apprenticed to him. You know all this.
I do. But if you need to speak your mind, do so freely.
Now, dear boy, no more work tonight. Christmas Eve. We're on the verge of Christmas, Ebeneezer. Let's have the shutters up. Let's bring in a fiddler. Let's do away with this lofty desk and make a show of it. How does that sound?
That sounds very good, sir.
Is there something the matter?
No, I suddenly wanted to have a word with my clerk.
Would that be Mr. Cratchit? What sort of words?
Nothing. Nothing, Spirit.
Shall we continue then?
I am at your mercy, am I not?
Too true. Let's go.
Scrooge now stood among those attending one of Fezziwig's famous Christmas Eve parties. If Scrooge had the time, he would have looked and saw a great deal of familiar faces, old associates, friends, neighbors, and people who at one time or another Scrooge talked to or worked with. But Scrooge did not have the time, nor did he have the will. For one face grabbed the entirety of his attention. Once again, he saw Belle.
Ebeneezer, my boy.
Scrooge spun around to see his old boss slapping his younger self on the shoulder.
What are you doing standing around? This is a party.
I'm enjoying myself, sir.
Nonsense. Part of your age needs to be dancing, celebrating, having a grand time.
I see you've already celebrated a great deal, Mr. Fezziwig.
You know what happens when I get tangled up with Christmas spirits?
Spirits, sir?
Oh, come on, Ebeneezer. You're not such a novice, are you? Christmas drink, dear boy.
I see.
But we're not talking about me. We were and are talking about you.
I'm having a wonderful time, Mr. Fezziwig.
You keep looking over at that young lady. Her name is Belle, correct?
I'm not looking at her. And yes, that is her name.
Young man, you did not take your eyes away from her until I pried them away.
I think your drink is speaking for you.
I may be unable to see straight, but I can see when a young man has been taken by a young woman.
It doesn't matter. She hates me.
Why on earth would she hate you?
I stole her handkerchief.
Her handkerchief? Why?
I don't know. I panicked. I wanted to speak with her, but my stomach twisted into a knot. My tongue ceased to respond to my commands, and I thought I was going to be sick.
So you stole her handkerchief?
I thought perhaps it would get her attention.
This is what you're going to do, young man. You are going going to approach that lovely young lady, and you are going to offer her back her handkerchief. And you are going to ask her to dance.
And what an utter humiliation I shall face.
Perhaps. Or perhaps you'll find you're in for a surprise. Because unless I am very much mistaken, she has not taken her eyes off of you the entire time you've spoken with me.
Young Scrooge looked at Belle, whose head quickly turned away.
Get on with it, my boy. Time does as time shall always do. And you've only so much of it. Take a chance on her tonight, or live with the regret of unmade choices.
It took the younger Scrooge a moment, but soon he walked over to Belle as our own Scrooge watched. He saw his younger self hand over Belle's handkerchief with a deep bow. He knew the look of apology on his face, and he remembered that glow of a smile on hers. She took the handkerchief, but her eyes never left his. She nodded at an unheard question, and then both walked out onto the floor, hand in hand, and they danced. Every moment their eyes made contact. Every subtle smile, every outburst of laughter. Scrooge felt a familiar jolt. It was both comfort and pain. It was both liberation and agony. That feeling called love. Scrooge lost himself in that memory of love, watching Belle and his younger self, relics from his past. But very much alive in front of his eyes, he smiled. He laughed with them and felt very nearly compelled to join in the steps.
It's time for us to go.
Can we wait just a little longer?
I'm afraid our time is short.
The park again. But this feels different. I have no memory of this.
Perhaps you pushed it out of your mind.
What on earth does that mean? Belle. Why does she look so sad?
Because she is.
What is this? Wait. I remember this. This was the day. No, Spirit, no. Please, take me from this place.
And there's that silly young man.
Belle, you wanted to meet me here. Am I late?
No.
What's wrong? You seem unhappy.
I know I already told you that I'm sorry.
What's the matter?
I can't marry you.
What?
I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Why? What's happened?
I've lost you, and I don't think I'm getting you back.
What on earth are you talking about?
Another idol has displaced me. And if it can cheer you and comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve.
Another idol? Which idol has displaced you?
A golden one.
I don't understand.
Your work. You're lost in it. It's all you do.
Mr. Fezziwig's wife just passed away. He's still mourning her. He's allowed me to do some of his work. You know this.
I know it. He knows it. But both of us see that you've gone farther than he ever intended. He is concerned. I'm concerned. But I've tried, Ebeneezer. I've really tried. And you keep smacking my hand away. You keep turning your back on me. I can't keep up with this idol. Your work and your gains from your work have possessed you.
This is the even-handed dealing of the world. There is nothing on which it is so hard as poverty, and there is nothing it professes to condemn with such severity as the pursuit of wealth.
You fear the world too much. All your other hopes have merged into the hope of being beyond the chance of its sordid reproach. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one until the master passion, gain, engrosses you. Have I not?
What then? Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I'm not changed toward you.
You are.
I'm not. I swear it.
Our contract is an old one. It was made when we were both poor and content to be so, until, in good season, we could improve our worldly fortune by our patient industry. You are changed. When it was made, you were another man.
I was a boy.
Your own feeling tells you that you were not what you are. But I'm telling you otherwise. That which promised happiness when we were one in heart is fraught with misery now that we are two. How often and how keenly I have thought of this, I will not say. It is enough that I have thought of it and can release it.
Have I sought release?
In words? No.
In what then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in another atmosphere of life, another hope as its great end, in everything that made my love of any worth or value in your sight. If our paths hadn't crossed until now, tell me, would you seek me out and try to win me the same as you did before?
You don't think I would?
I would gladly think otherwise if I could. Heaven knows, when I have learned a truth like this, I know how strong and irresistible it must be. But if you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, can even I believe that you would choose a dowerless girl? You who, in your very confidence with her, weigh everything by gain? Or by choosing her, if for a moment you were false enough to your one guiding principle to do so, do I not know that your repentance and regret would surely follow? I do, and I release you. With the full heart for the love of him you once were, I release you.
Belle.
You will have pain in this. I hope you find a way to put its memory away. I hope you find happiness in this life you have chosen.
Please, listen to me.
Take this.
Your handkerchief?
I don't need it. I've cried all the tears I can.
Spirit, show me no more. Conduct me home. Why do you delight to torture me?
Delight? There is no delight. Just one more shade, of which I shall tell, not show.
What is it, then?
She would be happy again.
I see. Good. She found someone else? Made a family for herself?
Do you really want to know?
Yes.
She did.
Yes. Good. Spirit.
Yes?
Take me home.
We'll continue our story in just a moment. This is KSJE, Farmington, New Mexico. KSJE and Theater Ensemble Arts present Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, an original adaptation by Britt C. Ward. Theater Ensemble Arts is an all-volunteer, non-profit community theater entertaining the Four Corners since 1997. To find out more about how you can volunteer or support your community theater, call 505-326-2839 or like us on Facebook at TEA Community Theater. KSJE has been promoting, sharing, and supporting the art and artists of the Four Corners for more than 30 years. See how you can support KSJE at ksje.com/support. This project is supported in part by New Mexico Arts, a division of the Department of Cultural Affairs, and by the National Endowment for the Arts. This performance is also made possible by Chuck Holmes at San Juan Realty, assisting buyers, sellers, and renters. Find out more at 505-327-4837. And by Erica Herring, an advocate for community theater and local arts organizations. And also by the Hess Corporation, a leading independent energy company delivering the energy the world needs. The performance of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, adapted by Britt C. Ward, features Tim Bagley as Jacob Marley, Dan Ware as Ebeneezer Scrooge, Christopher Spinner as Fred Holywell, Shera Piper as Mary Holywell, Ben Burns as Bob Cratchit, Joey Herring as Mrs. Cratchit and Belle, Tate Macsalka as Tiny Tim, Daniel Cabrera as Fezziwig and Old Joe, Rhonda Ware as the Ghost of Christmas Past and Martha Cratchit, R.J. Macsalka as the Ghost of Christmas Present, Chuck Holmes and Ethan Franklin as the Portly Gentleman. Sound design and editing created by Stephen Clark and Rhonda Ware. And now, we return to A Christmas Carol.
Scrooge found himself home, in his bed, as though he never left. He sat up and checked through the bed curtains, but saw nothing. He breathed a sigh of relief and lay down, thinking sleep impossible. Yet, driven by some irresistible force, Scrooge's eyes slowly closed, and he fell into a slumber before the chimes started.
Dear me.
Scrooge was out of his bed and walking along his room, fearful of the possibility of the next apparition. And that's when he saw a glow underneath his shut door coming from the next room. Slowly, he approached his door, reaching out to the knob, when he stopped at the sound of a booming voice.
Do join me, won't you, Ebeneezer Scrooge? Join me and know me better.
Scrooge opened the door, entering a room that did not belong in his house, hosting a rather large man in a green robe, holly wreathed around his head, with the robes loosely fitting to him such that his bare chest was exposed. The very large man did not seem to mind. He wore a massive grin beneath his bushy beard and laughed frequently. He was hosting a great feast, and the room around him decorated with such in mind: holly, mistletoe, and ivy.
Come in!
And Scrooge did so, though rather timidly, the sight of the giant holding back Scrooge's breath.
I am the ghost of Christmas present. Yes, look upon me. Do not be shy. You have never seen the like of me before.
Never.
Have never walked forth with the younger members of my family? Meaning my elder brothers born of these later years?
I don't think I have. Have you many brothers, Spirit?
More than 1,800?
A tremendous family to provide for, Spirit. Conduct me where you will. I went forth earlier on compulsion, and I learnt a lesson which is working now. I would very much like to profit from another such lesson, but I fear that no matter the lesson, that some horrible fate awaits me, no matter what the nature of my learnedness.
Fear, or the feeling of it, has been long and among the greatest domains of mortals. You feel it when you step into the unknown, and the unknowable. That you fear is natural, but I am not the unknown. I am the present. Save your fear for later.
Can you promise me this doesn't lead to a trap, then? Of my own design, or the design of my spiritual betters?
I can promise, if your lessons profit be honest and true, you will find exactly what you are looking for. Now, let us not linger. Touch my robe.
Scrooge lifted his hand, trembling, and laid it upon the spirit's robe. This was different from the ghost of Christmas past. This was immediate and painless, faster than a casual blink. Scrooge found himself in the city on Christmas morning. They set off, Scrooge following the ghost of Christmas present, as they walked by grocers and bakers and people preparing their dinners. The ghost of Christmas present released some kind of seasoning from a torch he carried. No one saw, of course, but if they were in a foul mood, their mood lifted, and if they were already merry, all the merrier.
Is there a peculiar flavor in what you sprinkle from your torch?
There is. My own.
Not a recipe you're willing to share, eh?
You wouldn't understand it anyway.
Would it apply to any kind of dinner on this day?
To any kindly given. To a poor one most.
Why a poor one most?
Because it needs it most.
Spirit, I wonder, you, of all the beings in the many worlds about us, should desire to cramp these people's opportunities of innocent enjoyment.
I desire?
You would deprive them of their means of dining every 7th day, often the only day on which they can be said to dine at all, wouldn't you?
I would deprive them.
You seek to close these places on the 7th day, and it comes to the same thing.
I seek?
Forgive me if I'm wrong, but it has been done in your name, or at least that of your family.
There are some upon this earth of yours that lay claim to know us, and who do their deeds of passions, pride, ill will, hatred, envy, bigotry, and selfishness in our name, who are as strange to us and all our kith and kin as if they never lived. Remember that, and charge their doings on themselves, not us.
I will. I apologize.
Ah, here we are.
I don't know this place.
Of course you don't. It's the house of the Cratchit family.
Cratchit? Bob Cratchit.
That very one. Let's watch in.
They looked in on the Cratchits and their humble home. There was Mrs. Cratchit, along with Martha Cratchit, who were busy preparing their Christmas feast.
Mother, this is such a goose.
It does smell wonderful. Where is your father?
Still out.
And with your brother? Oh, Tiny Tim. We'll need to keep the fire up so they can warm quickly.
Yes, Mother.
And see to those potatoes. Nothing worse than overcooked potatoes.
Yes, Mother.
Oh, I do so hope your father comes back soon.
There he is. He and Tim.
Scrooge looked in the direction that young Martha was pointing, and saw Bob Cratchit carrying Tiny Tim upon his shoulders. The image of Tiny Tim surprised Scrooge, for he had only ever heard a word or two about the boy. Tim was, as his nickname might suggest, rather tiny in frame and form. He had a crutch that was currently being carried by Bob. Yet, what Tim lacked in stature, his smile more than made up for. It filled the room somehow, and was infectious. At the mere sight of his grin, Scrooge felt his heart lift, and he smiled along with the boy.
Bob, get in here. Get in here. By the fire, both of you.
Merry Christmas, dear family. Ooh, that smell is delightful, isn't it, Tim?
It is.
How did little Tim behave?
As good as gold. Better.
Do keep yourself warm, Tim.
How was church, Tim?
It was great to see everyone. I love seeing people so happy on Christmas Day.
As do I. Martha, what are you doing here?
You'd rather me be gone, Father?
No. I'm just used to you hiding from me when I got back. You did it every year.
Oh, Father.
No, I remember. You'd hide, and I would sternly demand to know where you'd got off to. And then you'd jump out and surprise me.
I'm a bit too old for that now.
Well, I'm not. I demand that you hide and jump and surprise me.
Oh, Merry Christmas, Father.
Merry Christmas, Martha.
Try this bit of potato, Tim. See if it's to your liking.
I think it looks good, Mother. Do you think it's ready?
I do.
Scrooge watched Bob help Mrs. Cratchit and Martha prepare the table for dinner. Tim watched his family, offering encouragement or speaking rather excitedly about the day ahead. When they were all done, the family set about the feast. If feast it could be called. They offered no complaints. No, quite the contrary. Every dish was praised and enjoyed and loved by the family. But the fact was that Scrooge had seen greater feast on a casual Saturday lunch among the wealthy. And Scrooge knew in his heart that this family saved for this feast, kept months' worth of earnings just so that on this day of days they could enjoy this together as a family. Soon, the family finished the meal.
A great meal and better company. A Merry Christmas to us all, my dears. God bless us.
God bless us.
God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
Spirit, tell me about Tiny Tim.
A beautiful soul, a heart of gold, yet ill, gravely ill. The family cannot afford the care he needs.
Tell me, does he live?
We peer into a domain not of my own, but that of what is yet to come. Yet when I look, I do see a vacant seat in the poor chimney corner, and a crutch without an owner, carefully preserved. If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, the child will die.
No, oh no, kind spirit. Say he will be spared.
If these shadows remain unaltered by the future, no other of my race will find him here. What then? If he be like to die, he better do it, and decrease the surplus population.
Now, spirit, my words were at those who do not care to work for themselves.
Do you make that case for all in such position? Do you mean to tell me you would tell this family that they merely need to do better? Or go to the prisons or the union workhouses?
Spirit, please.
To Mr. Scrooge, the founder of the feast.
The founder of the feast, indeed. I wish I had him here. I'd give him a piece of my mind to feast upon, and I'd hope he'd have a good appetite for it.
My dear, the children. Christmas Day.
I am sure it should be Christmas Day, on which one drinks the health of such an odious, stingy, hard, unfeeling man as Mr. Scrooge.
My dear.
You know he is, Robert. No one knows it better than you do, poor fellow.
It's Christmas Day.
I'll drink to his health for your sake and the day's, but not for his. Long life to him, a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. He'll be very merry and very happy, I have no doubt.
Silence fell on the Cratchits for a moment as they all downed their drink, but none with any celebration. And Scrooge, though he always tried to hide from it, shield himself from it, it finally caught him. Heartbreak.
Your lip is trembling, Ebeneezer, and there is something on your cheek.
It's nothing.
Soon, cheer found its way into the Cratchits' home again. They all gathered and exchanged gifts, humble though the gifts were, and dreamt of the days when money flowed more freely and meals were just a little bigger. And then it was getting dark when the hand of the ghost of Christmas present rested upon Scrooge's shoulder.
We must go.
Scrooge said nothing, but followed the spirit, and with another blink, they were suddenly somewhere else. Night fully fallen.
This home you should know.
Fred, yes, this is his Christmas party.
One he invited you to attend, did he not?
He did, and I refused.
Perhaps we should take a peek anyway.
And Scrooge and the spirit stepped inside to a sight of mirth and joy and celebration. Many were in attendance, laughing and enjoying the night. Scrooge immediately saw Fred and Mary even among the group.
I don't remember the first time I introduced you to my uncle.
I would call it an attempt to introduce me to him.
What makes you say that?
Years ago, Fred drags me to his uncle's business, and there he is, wretched old man. Fred introduces me. Mr. Scrooge took one look at me, scoffed, then turned and walked away. He was clenching that handkerchief of his in his fist. You said you asked him about it.
I did, and I learned never to ask him about it again.
No doubt a relic from his evil childhood.
He did not have an evil childhood.
No, he is some mistake of nature, born just as he is from the spores of some frightening forest fungus.
Mary.
What did you call Christmas, Fred? A humbug?
Yes.
A humbug! He said Christmas was a humbug, and he believed it.
I admit he's a comical old fellow, but he is my uncle, and his offenses carry their own punishment. So, I have nothing to say against him.
You have plenty to say. Look at the man, and if not the man, look at his wealth. He does no good with it. He doesn't make himself comfortable with it, and he's definitely never going to benefit us with it.
I feel sorry for him.
I have no patience with him. He takes it into his head to dislike us, and he won't come and dine with us. What's the consequence? The punishment of his offense? He sits at home, still not eating but gruel. He chooses that life. Look at us, Fred. With what little we have all our friends here to celebrate with us. An unlived life is not worth living, and that's all your uncle is. An unlived life. An unrealized life.
I do regret his disliking us. If he were to make merry with us, I think he loses his unpleasant moments, which could do him no harm.
I say we toast him.
You're serious?
Very. What say you all? Let's say a toast to dear Mr. Scrooge. It's a simple toast. One word. I think you know it now. Humbug!
Humbug! With that cheer, Fred left the house, going outside into the cold. Mary chased after, and Scrooge, without prompting from the ghost, also followed, with his spirit companion not far behind.
Fred, wait for me. I'm sorry, Fred.
You have nothing to be sorry about.
I went too far with my jest.
No, maybe you didn't go far enough.
You're upset.
Every year, you said it, I'm stubborn. But I wish he would just open his eyes and see that if he stepped outside of the hideout he built himself, he might see the great world around him.
Loyalty is not a sin, and you cannot expect to change the personality of someone such as Ebeneezer Scrooge.
I wish I knew how to stay this impulse. I wish I could let him have his way about life. It's exhausting. And you know me, my chair is limitless.
I know. I love that about you.
He's cruel, uncaring. He's a monster, isn't he?
Fred,
Is that what you really feel, dearest?
No, because I can't believe it. No matter how much it hurts, I have to believe that there is, even if it's buried truly deep, this bit of light in him. Yes, it's diminished. out of use for years and years, but I keep hoping and praying that just a small spark will reignite and something beautiful will emerge. That's a foolish hope, isn't it?
No, it's not. There's nastiness in the world, my love. There always will be. Whether you're uncle or otherwise, it's people like you who remind us to love. To always love, without condition, even sparing love for the monsters, because it's love that cures all. There's no foolishness in that. There's bravery.
You're the brave one, the strong one. You're the one who faces people when they need to be confronted. You oppose those who need opposing, and you do it without a second thought.
There are different types of bravery. You and I, we offer the other balance.
My mother, before she died, told me about this path she and Ebeneezer used to walk on. It was near a creek, so they could look at the water as they walked along. She talked about it often, said it was beautiful. One day, some older children started bothering them. They threw rocks at my uncle. My uncle was very young, so he, of course, started weeping.
What happened?
My mother took her fist to the leader of that little gang, twisted his arm around his back, and made him apologize to my uncle, which he did. Then she released him and they fled. Never saw them again. My mother, who had poor lungs and ill health, she took on an army that day to protect her brother, my uncle.
Your amazing mother.
Yes, she carried him home, kept him safe. Why couldn't he?
Fred, if you feel that you must chase your uncle's soul until the end of time, then I will support you, no matter where it takes us. But whatever plagued his childhood, whatever happened to him personally that shaped smooth clay into rough rock, there comes a point where the decision to act a better man lies solely with him. Otherwise, there's nothing anyone can do.
I agree with you. He told me to come check on him this morning, and wouldn't you know, he didn't even answer the door.
Humbug.
I'm sorry, Fred. I'm very sorry. For everything. Please, knock on my door again. Call for me. If I don't answer, please break down my door and come check on me. Find me and drag me from my house. Please, dear nephew, please.
Mary, did you hear that?
What is it?
I could have sworn.
Please, Fred, please.
Nothing. Let's make our way back inside.
Mary and Fred walked back inside their home, leaving Scrooge with the ghost of Christmas present.
Fred.
Come along.
When Scrooge looked to the ghost, he saw that the spirit had undergone a great change. He was older, his hair and beard now white with age.
What has happened to you? Are spirits' lives so short?
My life upon this globe is very brief. It ends at midnight.
Midnight?
And the time is drawing near. Now, Scrooge, come along and look.
Scrooge looked, and what he saw startled him. 2 children, yet unlike any children he'd ever seen. Ragged, meager, scowling, their flesh yellowing. They kneeled before Scrooge as though offering fealty.
Are they yours?
They are man's, and they cling to me, appealing from their fathers. This boy is ignorance, this girl is want. Beware them both, in all their degree, but most of all beware this boy, for on his brow I see that written which is doom, unless the writing be erased. Deny it, slander those who tell it ye, admit it for your factious purposes, and make it worse, and abide the end.
Have they no refuge or resource?
Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses?
The spirit was gone, vanished into the wind as his time ended. Scrooge was alone until he heard his name on the wind. Scrooge looked all around him, and then he saw it, the ghost of Christmas yet to come. Scrooge found himself suddenly in an alley, in some other part of the city. The phantom that stood before Scrooge was quite unlike the previous visitors. Shrouded entirely in a black hood, only the spirit's hands were exposed, and the white, sickly flesh had a clammy, unsightly appearance.
I am in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come.
The creature did not speak, but a cold chill took Scrooge, and a new fear gripped him.
Do you not speak, spirit? Ghost of the future? I fear you more than any other spectre I have seen, but I was assured that your purpose was to do me good. And as I hope to live to be another man from what I was, I am prepared to bear your company and do it with a thankful heart. Will you not speak to me?
Again, the spirit gave him no words. The spirit merely turned and pointed down the alley.
Lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me, I know. Lead on, spirit.
Scrooge followed the spirit's gesture, walking alongside the spirit down the alley until they came across 3 people. 2 Scrooge recognized. The third, a man in what might have once been a nice suit, but had clearly seen better times.
When did he die?
Last night, I believe.
Why? What was the matter with him? I thought he'd never die.
God knows.
What's he done with his money?
I haven't heard.
Left it to his company, perhaps. He hasn't left any to me. That's all I know.
It's likely to be a very cheap funeral. Upon my life, I don't know of anybody to go to it. Suppose we make up a party and volunteer.
I don't mind going if lunch is provided, but I must be fed if I make one.
Well, I am the most disinterested among you, after all, for I never wear black gloves, and I never eat lunch.
By the by, whereabouts did you say he used to live?
The ghost of Christmas yet to come pointed again. Scrooge looked without a word, and when he did, he was no longer standing in the same alley. They were elsewhere in the city. There, Scrooge saw the same ill-suited man carrying a full bag. Equally disheveled individuals surrounded him.
I went to see what the old miser had. I expected something of value. Nothing! You hear me? Nothing! Everything he bought was the cheapest material, the cheapest make, the cheapest everything. Here, you lot, have at it. Nothing with it. I tell you.
What is that? Who does that belong to? Spirit, answer me, please. To what man were those charitable gentlemen referring before?
The spirit once again pointed. Too frightened to sigh, Scrooge followed the gesture again, and like before, he was transported to a new location. This time, a graveyard. The spirit's finger remained outstretched, pointed in a direction that left no doubt as to the target. A singular gravestone.
Must I approach it? Must I look at what it says? For I fear it.
The spirit did not move. It did not respond.
Fine. I will go.
Scrooge stepped forward, and each step was an agonizing move towards a fate he rejected, but approached nevertheless. When he reached the tomb, he took one last reproachful look back at the ghost before looking at the name engraved into the stone.
But, of course, Ebeneezer Scrooge. I knew it. I knew this was some trick. I begged your predecessor to tell me, and in his own way he did. He assured me that if my intent was honest and true, that I would find the path. But I see it now. This is my path. To learn of my mistakes and then to die, forever bound to chains. I knew it. It is, after all, what I deserve. I am a nasty old man, and there is no salvation for me. I've learned my lesson. Best be on with it, then. Best I die and reduce the surplus sin of the world. But if I may, dear spirit, may I have one last comfort before my final moments.
The spirit did not gesture this time, but instead swung his robe with a flourish, and Scrooge found himself in another graveyard, different from the one he was just at. This was more humble. The graves, often unmarked, as those who slept here had not the finances in life to mark their name upon their resting place. A fog had fallen and was growing thicker. Then the spirit pointed to a grave, a small grave with a small stone, and Scrooge obediently approached.
Some comfort this is, to show me another grave. An unmarked one at that. Who could rest here? Why should this offer me comfort? Who approaches? It is difficult to see through this mist. Bob Cratchit? But what is he doing here? He's approaching this grave. But why?
But Scrooge could say no more, for his mind already had the answer. And the look upon Mr. Cratchit's face told the story.
There you are, my son. I wanted to visit before I walked home. Suppose you're used to that by now. I've done it every day. I shall continue to do it every day, I suspect.
No. Please, Spirit, no.
I should tell you, your sister Martha has become apprenticed to a milliner. She works every day, I'm proud to say. Maybe she puts too much of herself into her work. Who am I to judge her for that? Your mother has been busy at home. She keeps us all together. She keeps us...
Mr. Cratchit stopped. At that moment, Scrooge wanted to tell him something, offer him some kind of comfort. But it was then that a self-loathing, a true hatred of himself formed in the pit of his stomach. And then despair. Despair not unlike Bob's own. And it overpowered Scrooge.
There was much I wish I could have shown you, my boy. Much I wanted to teach you. I should have done more, worked harder. I didn't do enough for you. I failed you, Tim. I failed you.
You didn't fail him, Bob. No, you didn't fail him.
I would say I'm grateful you never grew to know despair. But had you grown to know despair, it would mean that you grew that I could know you as a man. And would that I could know that truth.
Please, Spirit.
I miss you, my son. We all do. There's no simpler way to put that. We haven't been the same since you were called. You were the best of us. You made everyone else better just by being you. With that big heart of yours. Martha used to hide from me on Christmas, only to surprise me. Now she excuses herself to her room when I'm home, to spare me. But it matters not. I hear her sobs. I only hope she doesn't hear mine. God bless you, my son. My dear Tim. My dear, tiny Tim.
The fog overtook them as Mr. Cratchit vanished from sight. All Scrooge could see was the Spirit.
Spirit, please, make this right. I ask for a comfort and you show me this. This is no comfort. No comfort for me and nothing but pain for that family. How dare you, you monster!
But a thought occurred to Scrooge.
No, I see it now. This was never just about showing me my awful nature. It's how I hurt everyone around me. Well then, let me propose a trade, dear Spirit. I'm a man of business, I know trade well. A 1-for-1. Take my life, but spare the boy.
The haunting image of the ghost of Christmas yet to come did not move, did not indicate that it even listened to Scrooge.
No then? A trade not good enough? No, no, indeed it is not. I'm but a man, and who am I to judge who is worthy of death and life? No, I'm not worthy of even half of Tiny Tim. Then take everything I have. Please, take it. Take my memory of it. Take all that away and leave me for dead so that the boy may yet live.
The fog became thicker and thicker. Soon, Scrooge realized this was no ordinary fog. It wrapped itself around him, around his arms first, then his legs.
Of course, you don't deal in the world of material goods. How foolish of me.
Wisps of the fogs formed into links, like that of a chain, and Scrooge knew what was happening.
The chains of my own making. That punish me, yes, make me suffer. Add 10 times the change that I made for myself, and I shall not utter a complaint so long as you spare the boy. But you must tell me that the boy has been spared.
But the ghost said nothing, and the chains were no longer mere wisps of vapor, but rather hard, cold, painful chains, whose numbers kept growing, grabbing at Scrooge, pulling at him, dragging him lower than the earth.
If you won't spare the boy, then let me do it. Let me, with what I have, do for him what I should have done all along. Let me do for the Cratchits as I should have done from the beginning. Let me give to those in need. Let me make for those who cannot make for themselves. I shall honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three. shall strive within me. I will shout out the lessons they teach. If I fail, fetter me to the darkest depths. Just give me a chance to save the boy.
Then there was darkness. Scrooge saw neither ghost, nor chain, nor fog. For a long time, Scrooge thought he was gone. Gone for the final time.
The chains. These are the chains of my torment. How they bind me, hold me down. I welcome them.
Uncle! Uncle, good heavens! What are you doing on the floor?
At that moment, Scrooge opened his eyes, and he was no longer in a graveyard or anywhere else but the familiar sight of his bedroom. The window wide open, winter sunlight and cold streaming in.
Fred, what are you doing here?
I came to see you this morning. I said I would.
You came in. You didn't just leave.
No, I felt like I had to check on you.
What day is today?
It's Christmas, of course. Uncle! Uncle, are you well?
Better than that, dear nephew. Better than gold.
Here, let me help you back to your bed.
To bed? No. That will not do. We have too much to see to this glorious day.
What are you on about? You need some rest.
I've had too much rest. Too much complacency. There's too much to do. Much, I tell you.
I don't understand.
I must live in the past, the present, and the future, don't you see?
Now!
I must honor Christmas with all my heart, and I shall. You will help me.
Heavens, Uncle, you're freezing.
I've never felt more warmth in my life. Fred, listen to me. In all the time that I've known you, you've done nothing but show me kindness. I've only ever shown you disdain. That changes this day.
What is happening here?
I'm a changed man. Your part in that was no small one, let me tell you. Allow me to repay the debts I owe.
Debts?
Is my invitation to your party still good?
Yes, always.
Then I accept.
Really?
By the by, where is your dear wife?
Outside, waiting for me.
We must see to her.
But, Uncle, you're not dressed.
Don't worry about that. My hat and scarf will do, as will some bags of money. We'll need that for certain.
And Fred watched, confused, as his uncle gathered his hat and scarf and several bags of money. However, at Fred's insistence, Scrooge did relent and dressed in his best clothing. It took some effort to keep up with Scrooge, as Scrooge, now dressed and ready, rushed downstairs and outside to meet Mary. He surprised her with his sudden appearance.
Oh, my!
Dear Mary, I'm afraid I've never so much as offered you a simple kindness, as much as a simple salutation. I hope you'll forgive me.
I'm sorry, my dear. He's in a bit of a rush this morning.
I am, but I did want to take a moment to give you this.
And Scrooge, from his pocket, pulled out his handkerchief, the one given him so long ago.
This was once given to me by someone very dear. I lost her. I now realize deservedly so. I kept this, thinking that it would cure the ailment in my heart, but it did not. Yet, I could never rid myself of it. However, I know I have finally found that cure.
What is it?
I'm happy that she found happiness.
Mary had always been uncomfortable around Scrooge, but in that moment, it changed, and she looked at him through new eyes, compassionate eyes. She saw in him something even Fred didn't see.
What was her name?
Belle, I know this is not a suitable gift for you. I promise those will come. But I hope you understand what it means to me to pass it on, and that you accept this, the first Christmas gift I give.
It would be my honor, dear uncle.
Now, Fred, Mary, I need your help. Do you know where the Cratchits live?
I'm not certain.
I do.
Good. Take this money. Go and find the biggest bird you can.
What kind?
Turkey, if you will. Buy it, and anything else you can think of for a great feast, and then head over to the Cratchits' home. You'll need to hire some help to carry all that with you.
This is more than enough, Uncle.
Then tip well.
We'll take care of it. Where are you headed now?
I have much to do, but I shall see you both soon.
And Scrooge set off, not exactly knowing where he needed to go, yet somehow knowing he was going in the right direction. And then he saw them, the gentleman who had asked him for money just the day before.
My dear sirs, a Merry Christmas to you both. I hope you succeeded yesterday.
That wasn't our best turn.
But we'll keep trying.
Well, it was very kind of you.
Mr. Scrooge?
Yes, that is my name, and I fear it may not be pleasant to you. Allow me to ask your pardon. And will you have the goodness here?
Scrooge put several bags of money into their hands, such that their eyes widened, and neither man had much breath left to speak.
Lord bless me. My dear Mr. Scrooge, are you serious?
If you please, and not a farthing less. A great many back payments are included in it, I assure you. Will you do me that favor?
My dear sir.
Will you come and see me?
We will.
Thank ye. I am so much obliged to you. I thank you 50 times. Bless you.
After that, Scrooge went to church and walked about the streets and watched the people hurrying to and fro, and patted children on the head, and offered beggars money, and looked down into the kitchens of houses and up to the windows, and found that everything could yield him pleasure. He had never dreamed that any walk, that anything could give him so much happiness. And then he turned his steps towards Bob Cratchit's house. He soon arrived and knocked upon the door, answered by an astonished Martha.
Can I help you, sir?
Is your father home?
Yes, sir. He's in the dining room.
Good.
Martha walked Mr. Scrooge to the dining room, and to some surprised faces, namely Mr. and Mrs. Cratchit.
Why, bless my soul, Mr. Scrooge.
Tell me, Bob Cratchit, what do you mean by not coming into work today?
Sir, you said I could take the day off. I promised to be there all the earlier tomorrow.
I see. And that makes up for it?
I'm sorry, deeply sorry, but it's only once a year, and it shall not be repeated, sir.
Now, I'll tell you what, my friend. I'm not going to stand for this sort of thing any longer, and therefore I am going to raise your salary.
Sir?
I've done wrong by many people in this world, Bob Cratchit, but none more than you and your dear family. I shall be reducing your hours, but increasing your pay, and, if you'll allow it, I shall endeavour to assist your struggling family, something I should have done some time ago.
Sir, I don't know what to say.
We shall discuss your affairs later, but I do hope you'll say yes.
Mr. Scrooge, I apologize for our rudeness. Would you like to stay for dinner?
If you accept my apology for my boldness, as that is likely to be my nephew and niece, as I have already made arrangements to intrude upon that very dinner.
And sure enough, it was Fred and Mary. They brought in a rather massive feast, along with a turkey more than twice the size of Tiny Tim. Scrooge and Fred and Mary all supped with the Cratchits, with the talk of Fred and Mary's party later on that evening.
May I be so bold as to ask, what has happened to you, Mr. Scrooge?
I found Christmas, and a new way to keep it.
Scrooge was better than his word. He did all he promised, and infinitely more. And to Tiny Tim, who did not die, he was a second father. He became as good a friend, as good a master, and as good a man as the good old city knew, or any other good old city, town, or borough in the good old world. Some people laughed to see the alteration in him, but he let them laugh, and little heeded them, for he was wise enough to know that nothing ever happened on this globe for good at which some people did not have the feel of laughter in the outset. And knowing that such as these would be blind anyway, he thought it quite as well that they should wrinkle up their eyes in grins as have the malady in less attractive forms. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him.
To Mr. Scrooge, provider of this amazing feast.
To all of you, God bless you.
God bless us.
God bless us, everyone.
KSJE and Theater Ensemble Arts have been proud to present Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, an original adaptation by Britt C. Ward. Theater Ensemble Arts is an all-volunteer, non-profit community theater, entertaining the Four Corners since 1997. To find out more about how you can volunteer or support your community theater, call 505-326-2839. Or like us on Facebook at TEA Community Theater. KSJE has been promoting, sharing, and supporting the art and artists of the Four Corners for more than 30 years. See how you can support KSJE at ksje.com/support. This project is supported in part by New Mexico Arts, a division of the Department of Cultural Affairs, and by the National Endowment for the Arts. This performance is also made possible by Chuck Holmes at San Juan Realty, assisting buyers, sellers, and renters. Find out more at 505-327-4837. And by Erica Herring, an advocate for community theater and local arts organizations. And also by the Hess Corporation, a leading independent energy company delivering the energy the world needs. The performance of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, adapted by Britt C. Ward, features Tim Bagley as Jacob Marley, Dan Ware as Ebeneezer Scrooge, Christopher Spinner as Fred Holywell, Shera Piper as Mary Holywell, Ben Burns as Bob Cratchit, Joey Herring as Mrs. Cratchit and Belle, Tate Macsalka as Tiny Tim, Daniel Cabrera as Fezziwig and Old Joe, Rhonda Ware as the Ghost of Christmas Past and Martha Cratchit, R.J. Macsalka as the Ghost of Christmas Present, Chuck Holmes and Ethan Franklin as the Portly Gentlemen. Sound design and editing created by Stephen Clark and Rhonda Ware. Thank you for joining us. On behalf of Theater Ensemble Arts, San Juan College, and KSJE, we wish you a very Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year.